is there anything that you anticipate from either a retailer's perspective or from product development side of things in the industry where there's a potential for the trend to shift in that direction?
My outlook is pretty positive. One thing I will say about the YouTube stuff, and this is the last thing I'll say before I make my predictions. Chuck should have to review all the gear. After you like watched a Chuck gear review, like no one else will suffice. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they're. I remember when I worked at RCS, like I sent out information for white papers on one of the products that were in development. And I open up all the white, like my job was like, take it back to other people. Sorry about that. Take it back to other people and get it. So I open everyone's white paper and, there's something here, something there, something there. Chuck's was like 4 pages long.
By the way, let's
And like,
clarify. We're talking about Chuck Pressburg. Chuck Pressburg.
Chuck Pressburg. Yeah. And he was like, this every aspect of how it interfaces with the human being through every possible scenario that the human being would likely go through and how the product meets and fails expectations. So like if Chuck was reviewing holsters for professionally, YouTube would probably be a great place and we could all shutter our gun stores. But until then, when it's someone's like, I like this, the person likes me, and they made it in the color that I wanted, and you can't buy it because it's like drop merch. So better luck next time, Fours. Yeah, you're right. You're going to have a store where I can come try this on because I'm just not taking that guy's advice. But yeah.
It's a shame we can't go back in time and grab some of the old basic load posts from Light Fighter in the early days because those were true gold mines of knowledge.
Chuck and Shane Gillis need to get together, and Shane just needs to riff while Chuck reviews different brands of toilet paper. That's how simple this could be. But for 2025, I think you're 100% right. If nothing else, I mean, possibly 4 of the biggest companies in the firearms industry have collaborated. Ruger and Magpul came together for the RXM, which I will stand by, I think, is a great addition to the industry, especially at the price point. We've probably never seen a pistol that is of that quality, that will be that customizable at that price point ever. And then Aimpoint and Glock, giving a true end user. I talked to Jake, actually, Matt Jakewees last week, and he was talking about his interest in them. And he has obviously vastly more experience in agency procurement and law enforcement time. I've never been a cop. I'm never going to be a cop. But, that's really a turnkey solution for agencies. And I think what you're going to see is a collaboration between lots of different ones and maybe companies you didn't expect. Because I think what's going to happen as we wait for either the economy to turn around or stagnate or maybe even get worse, hopefully not, it's going to take the strengthening of relationships through either collaboration or mutual support to get through some of these hard times. And I think a lot of people are going to do it, and the consumer will be rewarded for it. I mean, the consumer is going to get better, more affordable, easier to use stuff. I mean, regardless of, what you did, I've spent, Doug at ATEI did the slide. That's a Acro P2. It's going to go to bin to get stippled. That's just not what the average consumer is going to put out for it. Now you have a real turnkey solution. So instead of buying plates and maybe the guy at the gun store, or maybe you figures out what to Loctite and what not to Loctite and put it together, you have a turnkey solution.
Yeah.
And that fixes a lot of problems for a lot of people. So now we've taken out the engineering aspect of getting an optic on a handgun and you just stick it in a holster. Or you brought optics cut Glock Gen 3 technology down to a price point where otherwise people couldn't afford it. I don't care. I've owned every cool gun, every cool piece of kit imaginable, or more than the average person. There are, nurses, school teachers, firefighters, college kids that deserve to have quality firearms and quality equipment that doesn't break the bank. Not wanting that to be a thing makes you a douchebag. It does not make you an elitist.
Right.
If you want to have like rare and cool stuff while you're at SHOT Show, walk down to the Aria and go to the Patek Philippe dealership and watch how fast they tell you to eat shit and how much they don't care about your life. But for the rest of us on the show floor that are trying to make money or trying to have viable businesses, that stuff is a welcome addition. Like what Magpul has done with their rifle bag line is bringing quality that has never been seen at that price point. It was once reserved to the Cry Precisions and the Blue Force gears back into the common consumer. The RXM is the same way. And it's a thankless job. But I think in 2025, guess what, guys? The successful people read the tea leaves. They didn't do that. Dwayne and whoever's running Ruger now did not get together on that because they thought it was going to fail. That is going to sell hundreds of thousands of units in 2025. You want a
Yeah.
prediction? The RXM is going to sell a lot.
Well, I think that's kind of the big thing I'm looking at is like the best part of the fact that 2024 was hard on the industry and 2025 probably is going to still have some hard knocks for a lot of people is the fact that it's going to force everybody to go back and actually be creative and be innovative and be better, because it's like now it's the time, it's like be better, get better, or die. And I think that that's ultimately, to your point, that's excellent for the consumer, because you're now going to see some real interesting product hit the market, and also the quality of those things are going to improve as well, because they have to be good.
And that's what I think, like, one of the coolest things, I was talking to a buddy of mine who works at the New York Times about like rooftop defense. And I was like, one of the cool things about the firearms industry is the low barrier of entry. Um, you have a lot of smart guys that didn't go to college or came out of the military or did a bunch of like kind of took a different path from life. There's not the gatekeeping that there is in other areas. And, you could start a gun shop tomorrow for, with $20,000. And 5 years from now, if you know what you're doing and you know how to operate it, and you go take some basic business courses at community college, you could be a millionaire. I have several friends that have done it. I know several people that could tell you how they did it, and they would probably even show you how to do it, as long as you just don't do it within 50 miles of them.
Right.
And, so that's awesome. This isn't the tech industry. Nobody's too big to fail here. This isn't Google. So no one's an oligarch or a monopoly. Everyone can go down. And I think for that exact reason, people are going to look to be like, hey, you bring a lot to the table. I bring a lot to the table. Let's put something together. And the consumer is going to be really rewarded for that. Because, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year. I think there are going to be some people that just don't make it through the other side. I think that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I know I've got a lot of customers that were great gun shops. Their kids aren't interested in it. I have a customer in the deep South that's going to be closing this year because he and his wife are retiring. Both of his kids are doctors. They don't want to run gun stores. It's a huge business. He can't find anyone to buy it for market value. So he's going to continue to liquidate throughout the year. He's going to shut it down and retire. And that's awesome. I hate it for myself, but he looked at it and he's like, COVID was a nice way to run. Like, now that COVID is officially set and I can go out on my own terms, that's perfectly fine. So I think we'll see some people not continue. I think the people that continue forward are going to get stronger and going to get better. And, there always will be a growth in the market. There are kids growing up every day that are going to be interested in guns. We are rolling back gun laws. That's something we didn't even touch on that we could touch next time, or you can have someone more talented talk about it. There are a lot of cases before courts that, you could see the floodgates open in California, and that would be insane. Like that would be.
We talked to some of our friends at Guardian in New York, where they're having that same thing, where they're riding this new wave of like, it's getting easier. It's not like being in Ohio yet, but it is certainly an order of magnitude easier to get into firearms now as a New York citizen, and in particular living in the city, to do that.
I mean, I think that some of the cases that are before the Supreme Court, you could see, one of the sad things about the rift in the country is that federally, I think it's getting easier for gun law stuff. And certain states are, really enshrining those rights. For a long time, I couldn't carry a gun in South Carolina because there was no out-of-state permits and stuff like that. They've have constitutional carry now. In some states, you're going the other way, but the problem with that is it's going before federal courts, and the federal courts are saying,
struck down.
Yeah. Actually, in your attempt to do this, we are going to come back and undo everything because it seems that it's all unconstitutional. So if there would be a boom, the boom will come from opening up, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not making a prediction here, but
but that would be a contributing factor.
If someone looked at the California roster and said, "Oh, by the way, this is unconstitutional. They can buy whatever they want, and we're striking this down." California is the 5th largest economy in the world, behind the United States, China, Japan, and Germany. So that would be COVID 2.0 for the gun industry.